What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff, and on today's show, does UNLV have to go undefeated to make the college football playoff? Plus, we've got another reason why Bill Foley is the best owner in Las Vegas sports. To be fair, Foley doesn't have a whole lot of competition, but we're going to start with some UNLV football because it is the middle of July. We're actually not that far away from the season starting, but it's one of the best things we get, and that is leading up to the season, and that is preseason projections. I personally don't care as much about like the preseason poll for the Mountain West or even like the AP Top 25. Give me the computers. Give me the algorithms because FPI, this is an ESPN metric. This is an ESPN ranking system that gets used by the committee. The preseason FPI is out. Now, FPI takes into account your returning roster strength. It takes into account your incoming transfers or high school recruiting class. And also there's I think there's a factor for like your recent success that factors into it as well, right? It's a preseason projection. Some things are going to be wrong. Every single preseason projection is going to have things wrong. Otherwise, sports would suck because we'd always know how good everybody was going to be. But it is a good baseline. It is a good place to start. And UNLV, the good news first, I'll get to the bad news, but the good news is the UNLV is the best team in the Mountain West and by some margin, right? They are 58th by FPI. The next best team in the Mountain West is Hawaii at 76. Right, so that's a pretty significant drop from UNLV to number 2. New Mexico is 81, right there behind Hawaii. And then Air Force is 93 and North Dakota State's 100. That's it for teams in the top 100. Nevada is next at 116, and then everybody else is 120th or worse. That includes UTEP, who's 132nd. There's 138 teams this year. Yeah, the new teams for the Mountain West this year are North Dakota State, who's jumping from FCS up to FBS. So how good are they going to be? It's kind of hard to figure out. And then Northern Illinois, who's 125th, and UTEP, who's 132nd. The Mountain West had a terrible bottom of the conference last year, and they've somehow managed to add 2 programs that are going to make it worse this season. But the fun part about FPI is that you get percentages for very specific things. For example, every team you can see what are their percentages, what are their chances that they go to a bowl game, or I should say more likely get to 6 wins. Because you can go to a bowl game at 5 wins, or you could opt out after getting to 7 or 8. But UNLV's chances to get to 6 wins and get bowl eligible, 92.6%. A bowl game's almost guaranteed for UNLV, which is, again, 4 years ago, crazy thing to say, that they're almost guaranteed to go to a bowl game. They also have the highest chance to win the conference. Not much of a surprise there. It's 35.3%. Now, as I'm saying this, I realize I don't know if that means win the regular season title or win the actual conference championship game. I'm not sure about that, but 35.3% is the highest. Hawaii's next at 21.8, then New Mexico at 16.4, and then Air Force at 10.1. Everybody else, obviously, then below 10%, but those are your 4, main contenders, and there's a pretty significant drop from UNLV down to Hawaii, who's just second on there. But 35% chance to win the conference actually is high. Now, the fun ones is when you get outside of the Mountain West and start looking around at how UNLV compares to other Group of 6 teams. Just straight up on FPI rankings, 3rd best Group of 6 team. Boise State's the first, Tulane second, UNLV third. They're bunched up, though. Boise State's the 50th best team in the country, Tulane 56, UNLV 58. By the way, San Diego State's right behind them at 59. So the top 4 teams in the Group of 6 are all very close to each other, not a whole lot between them. So this is why when you look at preseason projections, you shouldn't get too upset if, we're 58th and Tulane is 56th. How could these bastards think that Tulane is better than us? They don't. You're basically the same team. So that's your sort of top 4 when it comes to best Group of 6 teams. Now, back to the percentages. Making the playoffs just among Group of 6 teams. UNLV has an 8.6% chance to make the playoffs. That's the second best mark among these Group of 6 teams. Boise State's better. Boise State has an 11% chance to go to the playoffs, but then it's UNLV at 8.6, Tulane's at 7.5, San Diego State's at 7.4, and then South Florida is actually at 5.3%. Those are your 5 group of 6 teams that have a better than 5% chance to go to the playoffs, at least to start the season. USF, they have a terrible strength of schedule. So even though they're not as good as, at least by preseason projections, a Boise State or UNLV or something like that, they still have a decent chance to go because their schedule is very, very weak. So they could run up a lot of wins there. UNLV also is listed as having a 0.1% chance to make it to the title game, but a 0.0% chance to win it. But 0.1 to make it. It's better than most. So those are your percentages from FPI that I think puts into context. I think it does a good job of putting into context what this season could be for UNLV, what the ceiling of this season could be. Looking at UNLV compared to the other group of 6 teams, and again, one of them has to be in the playoff, UNLV is right in the mix to go to the college football playoff. Again, there are only 5 group of 6 programs that are over a 5% chance to make the playoffs. UNLV is one of those 5 programs, right? So, and they're second best. So you are absolutely in the mix. I do think it also tells you good context for like, if you're expecting the team to be in the playoffs, FPI is telling you there's a 91.4% chance they won't be in the playoff. That's a high percentage they aren't there. But somebody's got to go, right? Even Boise State at the highest chance, it's an 89% chance it's not Boise State. Somebody's got to go, and you've got the second best odds. So that's where UNLV sits in relation to the rest of Group of 6. But one of the things that is stands out to me looking at this, because the more that I look at preseason projections, like SP Plus is my favorite, FPI is out here, the more I look at this, the more I think UNLV might have to go undefeated to go to the college football playoff. Because the big number out here for UNLV from FPI is their strength of schedule number. And it's 124th in the country. Remember, there's 138 teams. So we're looking at a bottom 15 schedule in all of college football. And if you look at the schedule, right, non-conference wise, the best team UNLV plays is Cal. They're the best, period, by FPI, conference or non-conference. They're only ranked 62nd. Cal isn't a power conference. In theory, that could help. But FPI projects Cal to win 5.6 games this season. Cal is projected to be the 14th best team in the ACC. I can tell you, you don't need me to tell you, but I can tell you if we get to the end of the season and UNLV's in the playoff race and we're looking at resumes and we're comparing how good of a schedule UNLV played and who they beat that's worth a damn, nobody's going to care that they beat the 14th best team in the ACC. If Cal goes 5-7 or 6-6 like they're supposed to, finishes 14th in the conference, no one is going to look at that and say, oh, wow, what a win for UNLV. They beat Cal. It's just not going to mean much. And that's the highest ranked team on the schedule. Based on FPI, UNLV is going to be hurt by Memphis and North Texas being much worse this year. Last year, North Texas was 41st in FPI. Memphis was 57th. North Texas won 11 games. Memphis was only 8-5, but 41st and 57th. This year, neither one's in the top 70, right? This year, they're projected to win 7 games. That's for Memphis, 6.2 for North Texas. That's bad, right? So your group of 6 opponents in Memphis and North Texas, not as good. Not as good as what they were last season. And according to this, are not going to be contenders for the college football playoff. According to this, we're going to get to the end of the season and a win over a 7-5 Memphis and a 6-6 North Texas, similar to a Cal win. It's not going to mean much, right? You're not going to get to the end of the year and it's like, oh, Memphis is 10-2, UNLV's 11-1. Oh, UNLV beat them, put them in. Memphis is going to be 7-5, right? North Texas is going to be 6-6. So based on these projections, those 2 games are not going to do a whole lot for UNLV as well. The last non-conference game is Akron They're bad. They're 133rd. They're terrible, right? But you can have a terrible team. That's not really an issue. That could be an FCS team instead of Akron. It's whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, you're going to have a bad team on the schedule in the non-conference. It's perfectly fine. Akron is that this year. So, non-conference schedule, probably not going to help. Conference schedule, no one else is in the top 70. No one else is projected to win 8 games. Now, somebody will. Like, these are all projections. Teams are going to be better and worse than their projections, right? Somebody will, aside from UNLV, win 8 games in the Mountain West. Will win 9 games. Somebody will. But based on projections, nobody's projected to hit 8. So what is UNLV's resume at the end of the season if their strength of schedule is 124th, like it is going in, and literally no quality wins? What is that resume? If they're 13-0 and Mountain West champs, they'll be in the playoff, most likely, almost certainly, if they're 13-0. But what if they lose once? The real question becomes, how many games then can Boise State lose? Because Boise State comes in preseason, strength of schedule, 74th. And I think any scenario where Boise State and UNLV have the same record, Boise State gets in. Boise State plays Oregon, by the way, so it's very, very unlikely they go 13-0. So that's why I say if UNLV goes 13-0, I think they're in. But if both of these teams are, let's say, 12-1 and they're conference champions, Boise State's going almost certainly based on their schedule. And then the real question becomes, the bad part, what about 12-1 UNLV and 11-2 Boise State? Is 12-1 against the 124th best schedule where you do not have a win against a team in the top 70? Or 11-2 against the 74th best schedule where you'd probably have like 2 in there, right? I think there's a genuine argument, and I think they might win it, that Boise State goes with 1 more loss than UNLV based on strength of schedule. Now, the good news is the other teams that are projected to be in the mix for the group of 6 do not have as tough of a schedule as Boise State. San Diego State's is ranked 104th. Tulane's is 98th. USF's is actually worse than UNLV's at 127th, right? Tulane and San Diego State's are better than UNLV and probably better enough that if they have the same record, they would go over UNLV. But if UNLV has a better record, it's probably not going to be significant enough for San Diego State or Tulane to jump them. Again, a lot's going to change between now and then. But in theory, you lose out having the same record to all of those teams except South Florida, who has almost the same schedule as UNLV. So, right, like that's not good. One other keynote, though, I should say as an aside, when we actually have games played, there will be other metrics that tell you how well you played against your schedule. And so, like, let's say, hypothetically, UNLV does go 12-1. Their 1 loss was by 3 points. Their 12 wins are like all blowout wins. They play a terrible schedule, but they beat everybody by at least 3 touchdowns, right? They've got like a couple 50-point wins sprinkled in here. The next closest game is like 24 points. There are going to be metrics that say, oh my God, UNLV's awesome. Like, even if the schedule's bad, if you just beat the hell out of everybody, the metrics are still going to say you're really good. SP Plus takes that into account. FPI will take that into account, right? Their game control is a stat that I like to look at once we have games and stuff. UNLV will rank highly if they blow these teams out, right? That does work the opposite way as well. If UNLV wins a bunch of games by 3 points, 6 points, 7 points, and you're like, wow, they beat the 111th team by 4 points. They beat the 99th team by 7 points. They beat the 120th team by 3 points. You're probably not much better than those teams, and those teams are bad. So it does work the other way. UNLV, with their poor schedule, if they don't win these games convincingly, you might get dinged even if you are winning the games. It might hurt you, right? It's not as bad as a loss, but it's close to as bad as a loss if we're talking about the college football playoff. So all that summed up here is, I think UNLV opens the door. They open the door to getting passed by a team with a worse record with any loss. Any loss, and they open that door. Fortunately, these teams aren't going to go undefeated, most likely. I mean, somebody might, but nobody really has a good percentage chance to go undefeated. So it's not likely that San Diego State or Boise State or Tulane goes 12-0 or 13-0 and wins the conference. But 10-2 from one of those teams might be enough to pass a one-loss UNLV. That, I think, is sort of the scary part, is one loss opens it up, especially because almost any loss on the schedule is a bad loss, right? I think Cal, we wouldn't look at Cal and say, oh my God, I can't believe they lost to Cal. And like, somebody's going to be better than others, right? New Mexico, they could rip off 10 wins. And if they lose to New Mexico, we're not going to be like, oh my God. Like, some of these losses won't be terrible, but most of this schedule, I mean, you lose a game to Nevada, that's bad. You lose a game to what North Texas is projected to be this year, that's bad, right? Even Air Force, who's like the third best team not named UNLV in the Mountain West, they're still outside the top 90. That's a bad loss that's going to hurt you. So any loss opens that door, which is brutal. So it's almost as important that you're cheering for Boise State to lose as you are cheering for UNLV to win this season. Now, looking ahead, this is, I think, sort of the big question, is if you're Dan Mullen or whoever the next coach is at UNLV, how do you schedule? How would you want to set up your schedule, right? Because this schedule has a below-average power conference team, probably a bad power conference team in Cal, and then two group of six teams that were good last year but aren't supposed to be as good this season, and a terrible Akron. It's not a helpful schedule for getting in the playoffs when it comes to building out your strength of schedule. It is helpful if you just want to win all your games. So should the non-conference schedule, if you're the head coach, should your only goal be how do we maximize our chances to go to the playoffs? And what does that look like? Is it better to have a schedule like this? And I know they tried. Like, they went out to get Memphis because, like, oh, that's a marquee group of six program. But, like, is it better to have the 124th strength of schedule and just give yourself the best chance to win all of your games? Get to 12-0, maybe 11-1, right? Is that the best way to do it? Or do you want to schedule difficultly and, hey, we only got to 10-2, but look at how difficult our schedule is, right? I think part of the answer relies on what the Mountain West is going forward. If the Mountain West stays this bad, you probably need to play somebody decent in the non-conference, right? Because the Mountain West, if it's this bad, is always going to drag down your strength of schedule and fail to give you any sort of marquee wins. If the Mountain West improves a little bit, if you could count on like two other programs being pretty good every year, that could change that conversation. And all of a sudden, maybe you do have a marquee win or two every year in conference play, right? Like, that is entirely possible. But I think ideally, if you're UNLV and you're good and you think you've got a chance to go to the playoffs, I think your ideal schedule is a power conference opponent who is good but not great. You don't want Ohio State, but can you get the ACC team that's like ranked 19th or the Big 12 team that's ranked like 20th? Can you find that team? Because if you are good, you can win that game, which would be the ideal situation. You beat a team in the top 25 in the Big 12 or the ACC or something like that. You can win that game. Also, if you're good, those teams are not likely, they could, but are not likely to blow you out and beat you by 28, right? Losing by 10 to the 19th ranked team in the country is not the end of the world if you're competing for a group of six playoff spot. Losing by 35 might be. But like, if you lost to the number 19 team in the country by 10, that's probably solid, right? That's actually probably a decent thing compared to the other group of six programs. And then I think you want a group of six team that's either going to be at the very top of their conference or close to it, right? What they tried to do with Memphis, but similar logic to the power conference team. You can win that game and it will help your resume. It might even be a head-to-head tiebreaker if you get the right team, right? And if you lose, it probably won't be by a ton and absolutely kill you. The problem is, how do you predict which teams are going to fit into my little model when games are scheduled years in advance? And the answer is you can't, right? UNLV already has their schedule for next year. USC and Arizona State are on UNLV's football schedule for next season, and James Madison and Akron. USC or Arizona State, right? They could fit the bill. I think it's not hard to see either one of those programs sort of being like the 18th ranked team in the country. finishing the year at 9-3 or something like that, right? And it's kind of like, oh, that's the exact team we want to play. But it is also possible that USC regains their status as a powerhouse and they're 12-1 next year and ranked third in the country at the end of the year and beat UNLV by 41. And that's just horrific. Or it's also entirely possible that they're bad and they win 6 games. And it's just a nothing power conference opponent that you're probably an underdog to. And even if you beat them, nobody cares. Right? So it's like you can't even predict that for one season later, and that's already on the schedule. UNLV has a game with Iowa State scheduled for 2030. Who the hell knows what Iowa State's going to be in 2030? Who knows what UNLV is going to be as well? So like it's just an impossible thing to do. And to me, it highlights how lucky you have to be for these things to go your way. To make the playoff, not only do you have to be good, not only do you have to be the best team in your conference, but your schedule has to line up because you're going to be compared against the best teams from the Pac-12 and the American and the Sun Belt and everything else, right? Your schedule has to line up so that you have the resume. And like this is a year where UNLV could legitimately be the best group of 6 team, and we get to the end of the year and they don't get in because their schedule's not good enough. That is an entirely possible scenario this season, and you kind of have to be a little bit lucky for your schedule to line up and your team to be good, and then obviously in the games for things to go your way. It's part of the reason why I am in favor of a 2014 playoff where every single conference champion gets in, because then your strength of schedule doesn't matter. Then it's not like, we scheduled Iowa State 5 years ago, and now they're the number 2 team in the country. That screws us, right? Like, that doesn't matter because all you have to do is win your conference, and you get into the college football playoff. So I'm in favor of the 2014 playoff if it comes with conference champs getting automatic spots because that takes some of the luck out of it. It's more about, hey, did you win the football games against your conference opponents and then win the championship game? So overall, UNLV is in a really good spot to go to the playoffs, or let me rephrase that. They're in a really good spot among the group of 6 teams to be in the playoff race, right? Again, it's 91% they don't make it, but that's the second best odds of any team in the group of 6. They're absolutely in this mix. It absolutely sets the expectations for this season and what is a successful season, what is good, right? But I do think it's going to be difficult, and any slip up is going to hurt this team. Any loss is going to be a bad loss that hurts UNLV, hurts their playoff chances. And too many close wins against bad teams will also hurt UNLV's playoff chances, because if we get to the end of the year and a team with a significantly better strength of schedule has the same record or even one more loss, I think they're going to get in over UNLV. Now, want to wrap up the show talking about NBA expansion, because there were a couple stories in the Review Journal over the last couple of weeks about ownership or possible ownership groups for the NBA team that is probably coming to Las Vegas. First off, there was a story about Bill Foley. He talked to the RJ, gave some quotes. Yeah, we want the team. Give us the team and all that. But some important details from that story. Foley wants to upgrade T-Mobile Arena. He said that before. He specifically told the Review Journal, though, that want to spend $300 to $400 million to upgrade T-Mobile Arena, add about 1,000 seats, add more suites, more hospitality, because that's what every pro sports team has to do. They got to add more hospitality. That's how they make money, apparently. And he also said, make it NBA ready. That was in Foley's quote. It's not already NBA ready, whatever. But that was part of the selling point. But those are some of the things he wants to add. But here's the key part in this. The way Foley phrased it was he was ready to spend $300 to $400 million. That's not public money. Like, what? Foley's going to spend it all himself? Doesn't sound like he's asking for tax dollars? Done. Bill Foley's the owner. We have the owner of an NHL team. I don't even care how good they are at hockey. We have the owner of an NHL team who is playing in an arena that was built without public money. And now he wants to upgrade that arena and bring an NBA team to Las Vegas and wants to do that without public money in America? where every sports owner asks for public money, and in Las Vegas, where no matter what sport you play, the LVCVA will give you public money. They will take tax dollars and just hand it over, whether it's F1, minor league baseball, the Super Bowl, whatever. That's a lie. They didn't do it for the World Cup. They'll do everything but the World Cup because FIFA's the only thing more corrupt. Foley's not going to ask for public money. Give him the team. Give it to him right now. Because we all know any of these other ownership groups that are coming in and like, we need to build a new arena, they're asking for public money. We know that. We've seen that. We've seen that play out over and over. And they're going to get it because who doesn't get it in Las Vegas? But Foley's going to put up his own money to do that? Done. Let's go. Give it to Foley. I don't need to hear anything else. Give it to Foley. We're in great shape. No public money for it. Foley's unbelievable. It's incredible. So Bill Foley's the best owner in the city, regardless of how good his teams are. Golden Knights are clearly better than the Raiders. I guess the Aces are pretty good, but he's the best owner in the city. Don't ask for public money to upgrade an arena and bring us an NBA team. I'm in. Also from the Foley story that I thought was odd, he wants to build a practice facility in Summerlin. And build I guess it'd be 2 different facilities that would be for the NBA team, but also a new one for the Golden Knights. The City National's not that old, right? Like I know the team's a decade old. They're about to start their 10th season. City National's not that old. Like we gotta have a new practice facility already. That's pretty brutal. He also the other good point for Foley. He also said in that story that he would be fine with, and even said he'd benefit from, if the NBA team coming to Vegas is owned by somebody else, he'd be fine with and would benefit from them putting that team at T-Mobile Arena temporarily while the new arena was built. Because in theory, if a different ownership group gets it, they're going to build their own arena somewhere else. But the NBA wants this team to start playing in the 2028-2029 season. A new arena won't be ready by then. So they'd have to play somewhere. T-Mobile Arena is the most obvious answer. Bill Foley said he'd be fine with that. So Foley's even like, hey, if I don't get the team, yeah, they can play T-Mobile Arena. That's great. Not going to put up a fight there. Bill Foley's killing it. I don't know if he's going to be a good owner for the NBA, but these are great arguments in my case. Now, one last thing on ownership and the NBA is we've got a new ownership group, and it's led by Jerry Colangelo. He used to own the Phoenix Suns and the Arizona Diamondbacks. No longer owns them. I believe the last thing he did in the NBA was in the front office with the 76ers. So he's been in the NBA. He's done a ton. He was a GM with a long time before I was born, right? Jerry Colangelo is interested. He's got a group that's called the Jacks. The RJ story was very clear to say the NBA team name would not be the Las Vegas Jacks. That's just the name of this group. Vinny Del Negro, who used to play in the NBA, Jay Williams, who was at Duke and briefly in the NBA, are a part of this group as well. But Jerry Colangelo is the big name because of how much experience he has in the NBA. The experience part sounds great. I don't know how much it matters when you're taking on an expansion team or creating an expansion team, that experience at the ownership level is that important. Bill Foley didn't have any, and the Golden Knights are really good at hockey. So, Mark Davis inherited a team that his dad owned forever, and he's not very good at it. So I don't know how much that matters. I think the curious part for me on this, and this applies to Bill Foley too, Jerry Colangelo is 86 years old. Foley is 81. Team's going to start playing 2 years from now. Colangelo's going to be 88. He's going to be 90 in year 2, year 3. It just, are we really going to have the primary owner, the main owner of the team, be 88 years old when the team starts playing? And in Foley's case, I think it's 83 when they start playing. That just seems dumb. Maybe nobody under 80 can afford it. That's certainly possible. But it just seems dumb to be like, yeah, brand new team. They're going to be in Vegas forever. Here's your owner that's going to lead you. We're going to any positive that's like, oh, Jerry Colangelo's worked in basketball forever. His experience is going to be important. He's done everything in the league. He's going to be important. He's 86. How long is that experience going to actually help before I think it's his son is in this group presumably takes over. Like, I don't know. It just seems like if you're going to pitch, hey, Jerry Colangelo is this awesome owner that should absolutely get the team in Las Vegas. Yeah, he's 86. You know, where's like a 76-year-old? How about like a 66-year-old? You know, give us a little bit of runway here. This has been Technically Correct. I don't hate all old people, but on this episode, apparently I do. This has been Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. Thank you so much for tuning in.